All right, hello, I am Luann from Cavetto Design, graphic design built for architects, and welcome to Cavetto Conversations, where I talk with architects about their beginnings, their triumphs, and everything in between. Today, I'm really excited to be here with Jennifer Takatch from ArchitecturaPC in Rochester, New York. Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is really fun.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And we can start wherever you like. If you want to, for me, I'd really love to know, when and where did your passion for architecture begin?
I would have to say probably on the school bus. I grew up in Fairport, New York, and I used to ride the bus to school, and I lived in a subdivision. So I kind of played a game with myself as I went around the block 5,000 times going, that house looks like that house, but a little different. And that house looks like that house, but a little different. So I kind of was always like checking things out and trying to figure out how they were different. But then I think it was our trip to Virginia, historic Virginia, that really started making me think about buildings and that. I also took drafting in high school because my art teacher noticed one day that I was always using a ruler when I was doing my art projects. And she said, maybe you should go and take a drafting class because you're always very specific about your measurements. And that launched me.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Great encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool.
I still like doing art though.
Yeah, I hear you. It's interesting. You said how you're noticing houses looking similar. Something I always do is movies. I can always pick out. I was like, that's the same house they used in whatever, like sets, right?
Yes. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that is fun. Well, that is really cool on the school bus. I can't imagine anyone else has that same story.
Probably not. But I was on the bus for a long time, so I was always looking at stuff. Yeah.
Right. So what are one or two of your favorite all-time projects that you've done and why?
I really like to work with older buildings and work new fabric into older buildings. So I would say my most favorite project was one that I did for Monroe Community Hospital. And that's located in Rochester. It was built during the 30s. It's Lombardy Romanesque style. So it has a very Italian look to it. It's brick and it has some very flamboyant features on the outside. But on the inside, not so much. And so we were charged to renovate a lot of public spaces, including corridors, entryways, cafeteria, and create a gift shop. The building has over 600 residents there. And a lot of them come down into the hallways to have social time. And it was very stark and white and really outdated. So we brought a lot of the colors and the textures from the outside indoors. And the project was particularly challenging. And it was very hard because we had to keep the hospital open while the project was underway. So there was layering of that. There was multiple prime contractors. I think we had probably 10 to 14 of them. But we were working with artisans, we were working with plasterers, we were with stained glass artists. My client, who was an architect, worked for the county, and she was very specific about what she wanted, but she gave me a lot of leeway to design. And I think it was probably the hardest project I've ever worked on, but it's the one I love the most.
Wow. Very cool. Yeah, I know that building. Yeah. Huh. So in the scheme of your work, what was a setback or a quote unquote failure that ended up becoming a breakthrough for you?
Well, I'm hoping this doesn't happen to most people, but our office building burned. Mm-hmm. And we lost everything except our hard drive. Mm-hmm. And we had it, my partner went into the building after the fire was over and it was trashed, but he went and looked around and found it. And then we took it to our AV people and they had it all the data on it was pulled off, but it had to go through a particular process to do that because it had been soaked, it had been hosed for hours. If we hadn't had that, it would have been a total loss. The thing that came out of that, though, was it was like we had nothing. So we had to really think about what was important. And I spent a lot of time with my dad when I was younger. He worked for Kodak, and he did a lot of marketing with Kodak. And through just being with him, I learned a lot of things through osmosis. And one of the things that I heard his voice at that time, at this point, he's not alive anymore, but he said, you should go call on all your clients. You should go just check in with them. You don't have a desk anymore. You don't have anything to work on right now. So that's what I did. I went and made calls to all my clients in person. And it was really amazing to see the reaction from them. They're like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, I just want you to know that I'm okay. And I'm going to press on. It might take a little while, and they were just, a lot of them were just really thankful that I was alive. But then out of that whole thing, I think we were just meant to be out of that building. The building had a lot of turmoil for a long time. It had been bought by somebody and they were renovating it. And that's what happened. It was during the renovation, the building caught on fire. So it gave us a clean slate. It gave us a rebirth. And I think it was necessary. And ever since then, we've been totally stoked with our new facility. And it just was a good thing. But I would never wish that on anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. I've heard, a few people have that experience, fire in their house and lost everything, but it does give you that rebirth. Yeah. Do you think did your client work change at all as a result of that, or, anything like that?
I think it made us really focus on what was important, and that life was short. So only pick the projects you really want to work on.
Ah, nice.
We have a saying here, we call it the joy factor. When we're looking at a potential project, I talk to my staff and I say, is this something you want to work on? Would you want to get out of bed and do this? And if everybody's like, not so much, then we kindly say, no, thank you. And we've gotten better at that, because if you're working on a project that's something that doesn't bring you joy, you don't want to work on it. And it shows.
Yep. Yeah. You don't bring your best, for sure.
Correct. Yeah.
That's great. Nope. That's beautiful that you're framing things like that now, I love it. So how do you want people to feel about your work?
Well, when somebody comes into our building, I want them to feel like it's well thought out, that it was done with love, that it wasn't just slapped together, that people really thought about the people that are going to be inhabiting the building. And I want them to feel like it makes a difference for them, that they look forward to going to work, or they look forward to going home, or the experience they're going to have in this restaurant is going to be not loud, but somebody thought about acoustics and it's well done. I want them to feel, I guess in a way, you almost don't want them to notice the architecture because it's done well and it's not bothering them. Yeah. Yeah. That's the idiom, right? The best design is unnoticed. Yes.
Yeah.
And things that are not done well are very noticeable.
Right. For better or for worse. What would you say, 3 words to describe your style or your aesthetic?
Well, we tend to be contextual. So I actually had a client, actually have had many clients that are architects, which is kind of a unique space to be in. And early on, he commented, he said, you're a chameleon. You kind of change per project. And I thought, that's an interesting description. Yeah, I think I am, because our office doesn't have a style. We respond to our client. So I'd like to say that we're responsive, both in our clients' needs, but also the community's needs. We would like to put buildings in places that look like they're respectful to their neighbors. And if we're trying to make a statement, okay, but don't do it to the dismay of the neighbor. Live in harmony with other buildings and people. So harmonizing, I would like to be timeless. I mean, it's fun to have something trendy go on, but when it's a building, the 1980s weren't so hot right now.
Right.
But I love the 80s, and there's wonderful things to be said about their style of building. But if I could be timeless, that's really important to me.
Mm-hmm. Harmonizing, timeless. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Who's your ideal client? Another architect.
I always tell people that a client that pays me. That's my tongue-in-cheek one, but there's a lot to be said about that. But it's when the client understands that I am a team member and that I'm working on their project. It's not my project. So they need to allow me to use my abilities to make the best project for them. Mm-hmm. So when I don't want to be a pencil in my client's hands, meaning that, yes, they're going to come with ideas, but I want them to hire me because I'm going to expound on those ideas and probably give them ideas they never thought about. So letting me use my creative abilities to their benefit is what I want. That's the kind of client I want. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that I'm wanting them to sit there and not say anything, because usually the people that challenge me are the ones that create the diamonds, right? Because they're asking me to do something, and I've learned that never is not a word, really. Because if you try hard enough, or if you're pushed hard enough, sometimes you can create stuff that you never would have thought you would have come up with. So, yeah,
cool. It's a good set of criteria. How do you view the architecture of the past?
With respect. Not every building is awesome, right? So you need to learn from it. There are good examples and there are bad examples. I hope that I can learn from each and every one of them. But I respect the old. To me, that's really important. And I feel like if I understand the historical component, that I'm going to actually be able to create better things here in the future. I need to look at the past so I can learn from that.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite building here in Rochester?
Oh boy. Well, MCH, Monroe Community Hospital, is one of my favorite. I really love the planetarium. Mm-hmm. And the planetarium, recently, we participated in a fashion show with other designers and architects. Mm-hmm. And our team actually did the planetarium as our garment. So that was very exciting. And it was very beautiful. And we worked with Nancy Gong, who's a stained glass artist, internationally known, and she participated in her garment. It turned out really great. So I have to say that's probably one of my favorite buildings here.
Was that the AIA thing?
Yes.
Okay, I saw. Yes. I want to look back now and look at yours then.
Yeah, 2019. We did one in 2019 and we did one in 2022. Yep.
Okay. Well, that must be fun.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work, though. I decided not to do a timesheet for it because I'm like, wow, I don't know how many hours I spent on this thing, but it was worth it.
Right. Yeah. For me here in Rochester, I think the Times Square building.
Yes.
Wings of Progress.
Absolutely beautiful. It's kind of hard to have an absolute favorite. It really is.
It is. But I think like our skyline, without that and Mercury, it wouldn't be Rochester, right?
Right.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with what used to be the changing scene.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think anything's going to happen with it?
Well, I think it's one of those things where you have to have the right person to do something with it, but it's right in the middle of a lot of good things that are happening. So someone's going to come along and really take it over and do something. But yeah, it's kind of parked there.
What would you do with it?
I kind of like the revolving restaurant aspect of it, but I'm not really sure. I mean, it'd be nice to have it be a place where a lot of people could go and not be only exclusive. Interesting. Maybe it could be a museum where it revolves around and you actually see the city. You get to see multiple aspects of the city. Like right now, it's an office, I think. Right?
No idea.
I don't know what's in there actually. That's kind of gone off my radar for a while.
I saw something recently that said it was up for sale for, I don't know, it was like $3 million or something. So I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? $3 million for that whole building?
I think that's what it was.
Wow, that doesn't seem like anything.
3 or 8, I can't remember.
Okay.
What are you most excited about in architecture at this moment?
I went to the conference. I went to the American Institute of Architects conference in Boston this last week. And some of the hubbub they were talking about had to do with designing buildings that, one, are healthy, both for humans and for the earth. But they were talking more about the use of materials and the way buildings are designed that could actually be something that creates health within a person by being in the building. That sounded very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
By using products that don't off-gas chemicals, probably introduction of a lot more light, sound, and just general, irritants that occur, problems for people when they're working. What can we do to change that? Mm-hmm. The other thing I'm excited about is I really think that our world needs to be more responsible, just in general. Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes to one of your other questions about sustainability. I was thinking about that whole question a lot, and these two kind of go together. Mm-hmm. I work a lot in the city of Rochester. We have a lot of poverty here. And I think one of the things that occurs is people get in a bad place and they just don't know how to get out of it. I would love to see a more integration with people, teaching people how to take care of themselves and also the place where they live. Mm-hmm. And once a person feels a sense of ownership in something, I think they tend to want to take care of it, both their body and the place they live. And then that kind of blooms into, well, if we took better care of the buildings that we have, we would have to do less maintenance, ripping them down, building new buildings, which also would start lessening a lot of the pollution that occurs when we construct buildings. Mm. But I think a lot of the inner city people, they don't have the time, the money, or the wherewithal to know how to take care of their homes, or they don't live in a home that they own. Mm-hmm. So if there could be some kind of relationship with a tenant and a landlord that says, hey, if you participate in taking care of this house, maybe I can do something for you and your rent. Or I'm not sure what that whole mixture looks like, but I was thinking about that because we've lost a lot of really beautiful buildings due to neglect. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we're the only city that has that problem.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much exciting stuff going on. All this biophilic, architecture and all that stuff is just, to me, that's so exciting to see that start to be implemented and the difference it can make. And, with all our climate issues and.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it really boils down to starting in some small aspect, every person doing their part to contribute to the larger whole. And I think it's a mindset. So we need to start talking about it more with people and figuring that out with them.
Yeah. And basing more things on nature, right? Because nature already has done everything that needs to be done. And if we learn more from that and apply it,
Yep.
Yes.
And that actually, they were talking about that too. They were talking about just biology and the life cycle of things and how things turn over and rebirth. And it's kind of like, why can't buildings do that too? Mm-hmm. And they need to be constructed in a manner that things will change, because even just like a house, look at the difference between what people want in their house today compared to like 1900, 1800, 1700. There's some things that we should probably look back to the history and go, oh, we should go back to that.
Right.
But I think that people are asking the question. And stuff is very expensive now. To construct things is costly. Yeah. So if people can understand how to work with what they have and make it better, I think that might be a really good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a question I didn't send you, but what would be your theme song? Architect.
Well, I should know the artist and the song, and I don't, but I listen to a lot of Christian rock music. Mm-hmm. And there's a song where the singer is complaining to God because all of this stuff is happening. And God's response is, well, that's why I made you.
Oh. Because
you're going to be part of the solution.
Oh, wow.
And I wish I could remember the name of the song, but I can hear the guy's voice. And I remember the first time I heard that song, I'm like, he's going on and on about all this stuff and he's praying to God. Why can't you fix this? Well, that's why I made you. I'm like, oh, wow, that is so right. And oh my gosh, it's so obvious, and so convicting. That's so that would be my theme song.
Okay, I'll find it.
Yeah, I gotta look it up too. If I find it, I'll send it to you.
I'll find it. So what do you see as we wrap here? What do you see as the future of architecture? The challenges, the obstacles, the advances, the advantages, disadvantages?
Well, like every new wave of young architects that come out, they're all full of spit and vinegar. And they want to change the world. And we really want them to do that. Mm-hmm. I think the big thing is they need to also learn from the people that are in front of them because they have so many years of experience. But at the same time, we don't want them to dismiss their new ideas. So I believe that we need to continue to be problem solvers. Architects are great problem solvers. And even if you don't go into architecture, but have an architecture education, you can solve a lot of problems. And I think a lot of it has to do with listening. We're listeners. We like to think things through and evaluate and try to come up with a solution. But I think going forward, we can't leave people in the dust. We need to understand that everybody has a say. And the more we can listen to people, that whole idea of when I'm working with a client, I would like to have them in the room. I'd like to have the contractor in the room, the architect, and whatever consultants or even municipalities that are going to affect their project and talk about it. Because all coming together, we're going to have the best solution. It's not going to just come out of one person's head. Mm-hmm. So the idea of communing and being together and making decisions that benefit everybody instead of one person, I think that's a plus too.
Yeah. Now you've owned your practice since the mid 90s or so, right?
Yes.
What would you tell yourself then, looking back from your vantage point now?
Well, I was pretty young when I took the firm over with two other my colleagues from the office. And there was definitely stuff we had no idea we didn't know. Imagine that. I think I've always realized that if I don't know something, I need to tell people that, but I'll look into it and get back to you. I never was one that would try to pretend I knew all the answers just to look good. I tended to be very honest, even when it might have made me not look so swift. But I think over time, people respected that because they knew that I had their best interest in mind and I wasn't just trying to make myself look good. Mm-hmm. I think I would say, don't be so hard on yourself. I think there were a lot of things that, I just felt like I had a responsibility. So I did try to go on vacation, which I thought that was important, but sometimes I couldn't relax because I was still thinking about all the stuff I needed to do. So I think probably don't be so hard on yourself would be one of them. And client, not every person's going to be my client. So don't try so hard. So if this isn't a good fit, don't worry. God's making room for you because there's a better one just around the corner that you don't even know is going to show up. And that happened after a while. After I realized that was a thing, I was like, wow. So I worked really hard because I really wanted this job, but it wasn't a good fit. And you could kind of see the warning signs. So once you released it, it was like you had room for this other thing to come in that was supposed to be in front of you. Yeah. That was awesome because sometimes it would be like, oh man, I can't believe we didn't get that job. We were perfect for it. And then I didn't like fester on stuff for very long. I'm like, okay, I'm going to move on. I don't have time to think about that. And then something else would come along like, oh, that's why I was supposed to not get that other job.
Right. Oh, those are great gems for sure.
Good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. See, like this was even an opportunity too, because you emailed me and I'm like, who is this? This is interesting. I'm curious. I'm willing to check it out. So I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did too. I really appreciate your time. And I look forward to seeing your next works in the city and beyond. And
yeah, so keep your eyes open for Maplewood Nature Center.
Okay.
It's being constructed at the northern tip of Maplewood Park, which is just north of 104. It's on the west side of the river. We are transforming an old Haggie building into a beautiful nature center for young people to learn about nature, especially urban children and adults who, what I understand is most of them don't go outside.
Okay.
They don't know a lot about nature, which is one of my favorite things. So it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a net zero building. Yeah. So it's going to be amazing.
Oh,
it's supposed to be done in December, but it's under construction now. So if you go by, you can kind of see it.
Done by December.
What's that?
By December.
Yeah. It's going to be done this December.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well,
yeah.
We're doing that in the city. We need that. And I look forward to seeing that for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, till next episode of Cavetto Conversations, this has been Jennifer Takatch from Architectura in Rochester. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.